We have Denise Wooten, Dr. Denise Wooten. She ran already against Ben Baumgartner, and she's ready to run again this time.
You betcha. So I look around and I'm delighted to see everyone that I've known for the past couple of years now. And I decided to take a different stance for this speech, so to speak. Most of us as Democrats would vote the same on policies. Like, I don't think there would be much disagreement. So instead I thought, let me know you as a person. Me as a person, sorry. If I want you to support me, you need to understand my motivations and my character and why I would be even doing this. So it's not that it's so much fun to be a candidate, y'all. It's not for my health that I'm doing this. It's because I have been a clinical psychologist for over 30 years. I'm also a community college professor. And I wanted to make a bigger impact, like to continue my community service in a more expansive way that affected more people. So I thought, I need to answer 3 questions for y'all. Why did I run in the first place? Why did I run again? Why am I running again, even though I lost? And why should I be the Democratic nominee for Texas HD-63? So the first question, because it was never on my bucket list, it was not on my radar to ever run for office. I was quietly taking care of people in the community through the college, through being a clinical psychologist. I work with autism and ADHD. And then 2016 happened. And after I got over my clinical depression, which is self-diagnosed because I'm a psychologist, then I thought, well, I really have to do more. I can't just sit around and let this horrible stuff keep happening. So in 2020, I was putting out a bunch of anti-Trump and pro-Biden signs in my front yard in a very Republican part of town. Someone put a MAGA hat into my mailbox. This is being recorded. Can I say this? It pissed me off. How dare you put that in there? So I had a can of fluorescent green spray paint in my garage, and so I decorated that hat with spray paint, hung it on a 6-foot pole right by the street with a clothespin. Then I put a bunch more signs around it, and then I added some flowers just to make it a pretty display. And really, this sounds like ridiculous. Like, why did this cause me to run? Well, here's what happened. How many of you know Mary Infante? Yeah. So she goes by this display, and she's like, I got to meet that person. That's how I met Mary Infante, and she is the one who recruited me. When I said, Mary, I'm just so frustrated, I got to do more, she goes, I got an idea for you. So you can blame Mary or thank her, whichever is your persuasion, but that is what initially got me to run. So Mary was my campaign manager, and we did work really hard last time. We ended up being the 6th best Democratic turnout in all the red districts in Texas, which means it's even more flippable this time. But also, all the issues that caused me to run in 2022, human services being so pitifully taken care of in Texas, how many of you all would agree? They're all worse right now than they were back in 2022 after the 88th legislature. So I decided to do that again. Another reason, this district is more flippable now. You know we got 2 good school board candidates elected in May, right? I worked extensively on those campaigns. Michelle Alcatib, sometimes we call her Michelle A, it's just easier, but she was the one running against Ben Baumgartner's wife. We whooped her ass. She did not make it to school board, which means people will turn out in this district on behalf of public education. So those are a couple of the reasons that I want to run again. So now the final question, that's probably the most important, is why me? I've not served in legislature before. Frankly, I'm not the best candidate, but I would be a better representative. What I bring to being a representative is largely based in my psychological training and in my experience. First of all, there's kind of two sets of skills that go with being a psychologist. First is interpersonal, second is more of a scientific approach. Interpersonally, I connect with people as individuals. I feel very connected to all of you. Give me a hoo-ha if you agree with me. I also connect with groups. I've had the very good fortune to get involved with the NAACP and working with Jackie Shaw on projects. I feel embedded in my community. Y'all are my peeps. I care about you. I want the best for you. So the second set of interpersonal skills I bring is that I can connect with groups of people, and very diverse groups of people. I love diversity. The third thing that I bring as a psychologist with interpersonal skills is that I know how to navigate systems. I don't know how many narcissistic physicians I've worked with over the years. I've worked trying to get things done for my clients as an advocate for them in school systems. I've worked in a variety of ways with some very difficult people, and I rely on my ability to compromise. We are going to have to do bipartisan solutions, y'all. We are not going to get everything we want. We go in there guns blazing, literally and figuratively, or unblazing, whichever. We want unblazing. But we go in there like that. We're just going to increase the hyperpolarization that is already going on. I think we have to look for the points of agreement. Happens that I think two of those are my specialties, my expertise and my passion, public education and its value to the community and to people, and the pitifulness of our medical and mental health resources in the state of Texas. And that's such a huge issue. So interpersonally, I believe I have the goods. The last thing, I'm going to get a little educational on you, but how many of you remember studying the scientific method? Oh, yeah. Well, that's what I think we need to do with problem solving, is basically identify the scope of a problem. Okay, so we first have to identify the scope of the problem, which is huge. By the way, how much time have I? 52 seconds. Anyway, mental health is something I'm very experienced with. And did you know that 98% of the counties in Texas do not have enough mental health care providers per capita? Including Denton County. And that's not even saying that these people are any good. Half the people in my profession I might wish weren't. So we really have a problem with taking care of human services of all sorts, but especially with mental health. And I think that we can agree on public education and mental health, use the scientific approach. The second step, if y'all remember your old days of studying the scientific method, is let's generate some hypotheses. Let's figure out potential strategies that might work. Third stage, implement, evaluate. Then you need to do research about it, and then you need to tweak what you're doing to make it more effective. And I believe I can do that in a bipartisan way, working very collegially with people and using a scientific approach. And I would appreciate your support. Money and time, of course. Yes, Paige.
So I debated on saying anything at all, but I am. 65 was the district that I lived in. And I've run for school board here, and I ran the primary against Michelle. And I was a new candidate, so I was going around, I was visiting all the leadership because I wanted to know what the district needed. And one of the things that Denise mentioned is Democrats are going to vote the same on big ticket items. So we get caught up in that. If you're a Democrat, you're going to vote for women's rights, period. You're going to vote for the things that are going to keep you in office. But I was having conversations with the police chief who was saying, hey, people in Austin are making legislation, but they're not sending money our way. And we need somebody to call about that. My school district had to send back $12 million to the state of Texas that doesn't even come in and support us at 50%. And we had to cut 40 jobs, and we didn't have anybody we could call about that. We had roads that needed lights because there was increased accidents, and we didn't have anybody to call about that. I was endorsed by I think it was the Louisville Realtors, and they said, Ms. Dixon, the chair, We tried to get in contact with your opponent, and we couldn't get her to come to any of the stuff. Now, Denise, you probably don't need my help, but 65 was my district, and I love the people that were in that community, and I got written out of it. We care about big-ticket items as Democrats, but we need to know what our district needs, and we need someone that is available to make sure that they're communicating with the leadership here locally so that we can have those things. I watched 40 jobs disappear from my school district. Millions of dollars leave LISD, and we didn't have anyone to fight for us. And when I talked to the trustees on the school board and the leadership in my city, they said, we just call the Republican state representatives because those were the ones that picked up the phone. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Hey, so you talked about schools and psychological health care as your two key issues. On either of those, do you have any particular things that you specifically want done?
Yes, I would like there to be increased funding for the Texas Department of Health and Human Services. I think we need to also have training incentives. There are not enough providers, so we have got to have incentives to train them. Do y'all know how expensive it is to go to graduate school? Do you know it takes at least 6 years to make a master's degreed clinician, and I got a doctorate, which took 4 years plus another 4 years. That's very expensive, so we need some incentives in order to get people to train. And those are a couple of the big things. There's also some ways we need to show our benefit. Everybody goes, okay, mental health, we need you to help us identify red flag laws, to figure out who is safe to have a gun, or who we need to fear is dangerous. I went to a conference this past November at my psychological association, and they said, we don't think we're good enough at this. So definitely we need some funding for research, like how can we use mental health resources to better help the community? I hope that answered your question enough.
Do you want to take a second? I know that Paige didn't have like a question, but do you want to take a second to address like what your availability will be in office?
As I am self-employed, and I've reached the age where my children have emancipated, so I no longer need to worry about income as much. I think you all understand that part. I can do whatever I want to be available to people. I can work as little or as much as I want, and I really love connecting to people. I don't know if y'all can tell that. It's like, I just really want to be of help to people. That's my mission, and I will be as available as I can possibly be.
I thought of another one. You talked a lot about bipartisanship, and I'm curious, what are some issues on which you feel like you could reach across the aisle, other than the two that you mentioned that are important to you? What are some key issues that you feel like you have strong agreement or can be supportive of from the Republican side of the aisle?
I don't have a great answer for that at this point. I would have to search those out. But I also think medical accessibility, not just mental health, is another one where we could reach some bipartisan support. We've done some awful things to the Medicaid system by removing providers. Did you know that the public schools used to be able to bill for Medicaid services? Yeah. Anything developmental. Now we can't do that. Well, I do think when we put little children with autism in front of any legislature and their heart isn't touched by their needs. Oh, okay, you're cynical. All right, I could probably find some.
I've seen what they do. I'm cynical.
You may be cynical. Are you as well? Was that an agreement?
I'm a natural citizen.
Yeah. I know you, yes.
Jeff Underwood, political action chair for the NAACP, DFW Metro Branch, and I can definitely thank you for showing up to our events, and you're definitely a genuine heart. I definitely want to just ask if there's anything that really irks you about, at least this district, and anything that you can do to. This is a very diverse district. It's a very wide district.
Right.
There's a lot of different needs in each of these districts. How do you plan to tackle those different needs in those areas?
Yes, and I think that is a question, by the way, I had to answer for the Dallas Morning News recently, and I gave it a lot of thought. And we really need to think of HD-63 by zip code almost. and figure out what are the different needs. There's a lot of relatively affluent areas, but there are a lot of impoverished areas. There are a lot of areas of great diversity. We have some Title I schools in our district that don't have the same level of services or books even that our more affluent schools do, because the PTAs can't do as much. So I do think that if we look at the affluent and we look at the top issues they're probably after, they do value public education, most of them. They're not as concerned about medical access because they're able to get that through their jobs. But they do care about their standard of living being maintained, and I think they do care about mental health resources. Most people care about that. Now, if we look at the more impoverished parts of HD-63, then we do get, along with public education, which I have a statement I've made up, and I hope I'm not accidentally plagiarizing, but public education is supposed to be the great equalizer of opportunity so that not just rich people can make advancements. And I think when people try to keep public education down, it's systemic classism. It's trying to maintain the elite and not let everybody else have a chance. Now you clap for me, and I don't remember where I was going with this. That was just so surprising. But I think that we have to think about how to create more opportunities even within the educational system. I'm a big believer in community college, of course. I would love some of community college to get paid for if we got one-year degrees, if we get a two-year degree. Do you know if you get a two-year associate's degree, on average, you make $20,000 more a year over your lifetime, just with an associate's degree. Think what we could do for families if we were able to make that more affordable for them. And then medical, we got to get Medicaid back in. We got to get Planned Parenthood back as a Medicaid provider. Did y'all know they were taken off? And I read an article recently where syphilis rates are increasing in newborn babies, and I think, is that directly related to the fact that Medicaid can't take care of this stuff? Because there's nobody to serve the people that have this increased rate of syphilis? So medical, mental health, public education across the board, but different amounts of it in different districts. We also need to make necessities more affordable for everyone.
Yeah, Denise.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, I'm mad at everyone who gouges people. We have to do something about that.
Yeah, so we thank Denise.